Alright, hello everybody. This video is going to be a little bit different. Obviously you're not looking at Photoshop for once. You're looking at me, and I'm going to answer a question that I get a lot. Probably the most common question that I get, which is, how did you break into comics? Quote unquote, break into comics. And there's not a magic trick to that. There's no formula. But in this video today, I just want to tell you a little bit how I was able to break in, so to speak. I'm not a big fan of that term break in, because it's not like once you get in that you stay in, unless you're just insanely talented or something. So, just because, I'm hired on an image book, it doesn't mean that companies are lining up throwing books at me to color. So, it's always an ongoing process, but I just wanted to answer that question today and talk a little bit about what worked for me, which may not necessarily work for anyone else. But so breaking into comics, the first, I guess it was around 2011 was when I really tried seriously to try to get into comics again. I tried years earlier and it never really panned out, and I wasn't really focused on it enough, and I was playing music and other things, and so it just didn't work out. But it was around 2011 that I decided I think I can maybe do this coloring thing, and I've been drawing forever, but it was something that I thought would be a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that part of the process, which I kind of picked up just coloring my own work. And so for me, I didn't know anybody in comics personally. I didn't know one at this point. And so I just went to message boards and forums and all the places, digital webbing and Pencil Jack and all of those, looking for people, initially looking for paying jobs, which I realize now was probably the wrong thing to do to begin with. At the beginning, try not to worry about the money so much, because there won't be much, at least early on. For me, I did a lot of pitches, 4, 5, 6 page pitches. Shorts, again, 4 pages, 5 pages, 6 pages here and there. I think the key is to not just totally swing for the fences right at the beginning. You don't want your first project is not going to be a 48-page graphic novel drawn by Jim Lee. It's just not. And so, but those gigs are important. Those shorts and the pitches and all of those small gigs show that you can finish a project. They show that you can get work done, which that alone will put you probably in the top 30% of people that start trying to get into comics, I think, because there's a lot of people that want to put their name on a comic and say they've done a comic, but when the work actually shows up, they tend to flake out and realize, oh yeah, this is actually work. This is something that takes some time. I don't know if I can do that. And so you have to sort of wade through the flakiness of people at this stage, because you're going to get offered a lot of, if you're talented in any way, you're going to get offered back-end deals, quote-unquote back-end deals, which, I'll be honest with you, I've never made $1 from a back-end deal, but they were still important gigs, because, again, you're building your portfolio up, showing that you can complete projects. So the first year or two, I really didn't make almost anything. Maybe a few deals here, making 10, 20 bucks a page, if that. But for most of the time, it was just working for free with people like me that were writers and artists. They were like me in the fact that they weren't in the industry. They were all trying to get in. And I think that's the key, is just to start making comics. It doesn't have to be for a huge publisher. It can be small press, independent. You can print them on your HP at home. Just start making comics and build that network. That's the other thing that's important about this stage, is the comics industry is, I'm learning more and more every day, is a very small place. In the movie industry, you may need 6 degrees of separation. In comics, like 2 or 3. It seems like will separate you from just about anyone else. It's a very small industry. So word travels fast. If you're good, then people are going to know about it. If you're bad, or if you can't hit a deadline, people are going to know about it. So the key is to just get out there, start doing stuff. Just start making pages and finishing work. And again, don't sweat the money too much at this point, because it's going to be tough to find. But for me, and I put my portfolio up everywhere, DeviantArt, and I had my own website, and I was posting it to forums everywhere, just trying to, get feedback. And I didn't do enough of that early on, was to get a lot of feedback from people, because again, it's tough to find, really talented, established people that will give you good feedback now. But where you can, try to get feedback and get better. But for me, I'd done some work with a penciler who was sort of in the same boat I was, named Jonathan Brandon Sawyer, who, again, he was a penciler inker, had not really done any, established books or any, I don't think had even been published at this point, but I worked with him a few times, and this is where that networking thing kicks in. So he actually got hired to do a short for the Liberator trade paperback for Black Mass Studios, and they were looking for a colorist for a 4-page short. And at this point, and I'm looking through my list of my bibliography here, and at this point I had done a few, like maybe an issue or two, again, small press stuff, some that got made, some that never really turned into anything. But and I'd been published a few times at this point, again, doing shorts for anthologies and things like that, that I'd found along the way. But he had gotten hired for this gig, and they were looking for a colorist, and so he recommended me, and I tried out for the gig and got it. And just so happened that this 4-page short they needed a colorist for was with Tim Seeley, who is the writer and creator of Revival and Hack Slash, and he's working on Grayson now and Batman Eternal. At this point, he wasn't doing those, but this was back late 2013, early 2014, somewhere in there. And so, let's see, where were we? So, Black Mass did the Liberator book, and that went really well. And then about 3 weeks later, I got an email from another friend of mine I worked with a couple of times years earlier, named Magnus Aspley. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. He's from Norway. And he said that Rachel Deering was looking for a colorist for the In the Dark anthology, for a 11-page story there. And she didn't know me, I didn't know her, so again, I tried out and got the gig, and it just so happened that Tim Seeley was also writing that. So I do realize that's very lucky, but it's one of those things you sort of have to put yourself in a position to be lucky, I think. If I hadn't had a portfolio to back it up, it wouldn't have mattered. But so anyway, I did that 11-page short for In the Dark, and then a few weeks later, I got an email from Jim Lauder, who's the editor on Hack Slash, asking, Tim had said he wanted me for 5 issues of Hack Slash. So I'm pretty sure I did a happy dance at that point and agreed to it. But so yeah, that's sort of how I got to this point. I'm still working on Hack Slash. We're about to start issue number 4. Issue number 1 sold out, which was awesome. Issue number 2 comes out in about 2 weeks. We just had a second printing ordered on the first issue, which comes out end of or first week of August, I think. But that's sort of my story. And I think the reason why you don't hear these very often is that they are kind of boring to me. I mean, they're just, a little gig turned into a medium-sized gig, which turned into a bigger gig, is probably how it usually works. So, I guess the key things to remember, again, this was just my story, and yours will be very different, but the key thing is to start small. Again, do those little 4-page shorts and pitches and pinups and, all those type things. And build that portfolio up. The whole time you're learning, you're getting better, you're getting faster, which is huge. If you can't do a couple of pages a day, it'd be tough to get a monthly book ever at that point. But actually, working in the small press world has its pluses too. Usually, the deadlines aren't quite as stringent, and the work's kind of here and there, can be spotty at times. But don't be above working in small press independent stuff for a while, because like I did it for a couple of years before I ever got to a point that people started noticing at all. But I guess that's my story. So now when someone asks how do you break into comics, I'm going to point you to this video. and again, I hope you enjoyed it. It's been sort of interesting to tell, to look back and see how it happened. But anyway, thanks you guys so much for watching. Like the video if you do. Please subscribe if you haven't. And I guess that's it. So talk soon.